Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a nice weekend. Hope you rested well and ready. Hope you're ready for a new week. All right. So this video is for taking the makeup test. All right. So I'll be posting these tests up to every period, but I'm recording our first bio period for the week for the first bio period for the week, which is period 5. The makeup test will be on classwork under unit 0. Okay, what you need to do is go in there and click on it. All right, so it'll open up, and basically the only difference between the makeup test and the actual test part 2 is that I'll be providing this video for you to listen, and hopefully I'll be able to explain it better, and I'll be able to give you some pointers to on how to answer the questions. All right. And I'll go over the rules of what the makeup points will be and if you even need to take it. Some of you don't need to take the makeup test. All right. Some of you do. I hope you take advantage of this. And all right, so let's move forward. All right. So, okay, the scenario is the same. I'm going to read through it. Part of doing the makeup test is having to listen to me. I guess you can fast forward it. I shouldn't give you ideas, I guess. All right. So the scenario, you have landed on Mars. While looking over the surface of the red giant, your group discovers a tiny organism-like structure that is unlike anything seen on Earth. Okay, so you've found something that's unique to Mars. You've gone to Mars and looks like it's an organism-like structure, right? However, you must determine if the specimen is alive or not. So a specimen is like an example of something, right? So a specimen of a tree would be specimen of an avocado tree would be uh, I have a specimen in my backyard, right? So I have an avocado tree. So I have a specimen, right? So you pick up the object and it fits right into the palm of your hand. So it's tiny. It feels soft, cold, and slimy, similar to the texture of wet Play-Doh or a slimy fish. Okay, so far you don't have that many clues as to whether it's alive or not because it's slimy. It could be, you can find slimy rocks. It's cold, so it's not warm like a mammal would be because you're doing homeostasis. You're providing a stable internal temperature, so it's not warm. So that's not a clue whether it's alive or not, right? The first thing you do is place the unknown specimen in water. When it touches the water, nothing happens. So you let it sit in the water overnight. Upon returning to the specimen the next day, you see that it looks completely different. It has multiplied into many smaller circular looking specimen that are all moving around and bumping into one another. Okay, so now maybe it's reproduced and the things are moving. So those are two things. Moving doesn't necessarily mean you're alive, right? You don't have to move to be alive. Trees don't move, so but they're alive. But this thing has reproduced. That's definitely a feature of something that's alive. It has also changed color from dark rusty red to a bright neon red. You take a look at these small objects under the microscope, but puzzled, you do not see anything that look like cells. Okay, so remember this is a Martian environment, and we're applying our understanding of what cells look like. They have a cell membrane, they have organelles inside, and nucleus inside. And this thing doesn't look like that, but it doesn't mean it's, Martian cells may look different than Earth cells. Okay, excited, you decide to test for metabolism. So look at that, we're testing, right? Testing is another word for experimenting. So here is, a bunch of your answers come for the claim evidence reasoning come right here. Okay, so you test for metabolism. Okay, metabolism is the ability to use energy and or to take in energy and use it, right? Take in energy in the form of food and use it, or the ability to use energy because you know that all living things use energy. You also know that as a result of eating and using energy, all animals and plants produce gas. Animals breathe out carbon dioxide during cellular respiration, and plants release oxygen during photosynthesis. So you already know this. Some of you may have been like, oh my God, you know, overload. But really, all it's saying is when I breathe out, I'm breathing out CO2. When plants breathe out, they're breathing out oxygen, and that's why we're related, or we're in a cycle with plants, right? Any beings that respire with any beings that do photosynthesis, it's like a really good fit. And we learned about this during our first assignment in this class, was about how CO2 production is slowing down because of coronavirus. All right, so therefore you decide to give the specimen different types of nutrients. Oh, look at that. Different types of nutrients. So remember, so here you're creating a test. You're providing different types of nutrients. And remember, the variable that we always make different is the independent variable. Here you are making different types of nutrients, and then collect and measure the amount of gas. The variable that we always um, record the data for is the dependent variable. So measuring the amount of gas, probably the dependent variable, right? Released from the specimen over 40 minutes. All right, so the test is easy. You're giving it a different types of nutrients, the independent variable, and you're collecting and measuring the amount of gas. Whatever you collect and measure is the dependent variable, right? Okay, so here's the data table, right? The effect of time on CO2 release, carbon dioxide release, right? So to compare, right? To compare and see if this Martian specimen is alive, you use an Earth specimen. So over a period of 40 minutes, it is releasing gas, right? It's releasing gas. So that means it probably is alive, right? So then you have the graph down here, right? Graph time over 40 minutes. The Martian specimen is red. The Earth, I should have flipped those. The Martian specimen is blue. The Earth specimen is red, right? So they're both going up over time. They're both releasing gas over time. Looks like the Martian specimen just kind of does respiration, releases CO2 a little slow at a slower rate than the Earth specimen. That's it, right? So looks like it's alive. Over 40 minutes, it's releasing gas, right? So here it says compose a title for the following graph. So here's the graph. So what are you doing? You're comparing carbon dioxide release between an Earth specimen and a Martian specimen, right? So you can say production of carbon dioxide over 40 minutes, colon, Earth specimen versus Mars specimen, or Martian if you want to be fancy. And that's a good title, right? Nice and simple. And then it says add a y-axis label to the graph above, right? So you have time in minutes down here, and that's the x-axis label, right? Here you have, what are you doing? You're measuring the production of carbon dioxide, right? So this would be your y-axis. Remember I said, please look at the table, right? Average volume of gas released in milliliters, probably your y-axis label, right? Okay, so what is the independent variable in the experiment you've created? So you created an experiment where you gave them different amounts of nutrients to see what happens, right? So was it different amounts or different types? Animals breathe out. What did you do? You decided to give the specimen different types of nutrients, right? So that's your independent variable. Different types, you're changing the types of nutrients. So that is the independent variable, right? What is the dependent variable? Again, what are you recording? Here, look, you're recording, you made a table for it, right? And you even graphed it. You recorded how much volume of gas is released. That's your dependent variable. Nice and easy, guys, okay? And then what is a control variable? Remember we said control variable doesn't have to be one, it can be many, right? So, and it can be something that you're not explicitly stating in your experiment. So, well, did you change you change the types of nutrients, but did you change the amount of nutrients? Doesn't say, so you can assume that you gave them the same amount of food. You give them the same amount, right? Same grams of the nutrients. And so that could be control. The temperature, it doesn't say anything about temperature, but maybe the temperature was the same for both the Earth and the Mars specimen. That can be a control, right? The amount of light, maybe light affects production of or affects respiration, who knows, right? So you could say the amount of light was the same for both the Earth and the Mars specimen, right? So that's your control variable. So now what is the claim you can make? You can say I claim that the Martian specimen is alive. All right, cite two pieces of evidence if I think it's alive. First of all, over here it says when I put it in water, it multiplied overnight. That's reproduction. So that's one piece of evidence, right? Second piece of evidence right here, the graph for the table, right? It's actually producing, the Martian specimen is producing CO2. So that's, over a 40-minute period, it released carbon dioxide. And that's evidence, right? Reasoning, right? Reasoning, for the first one, I said they had multiplied, so living things reproduce. So because this Martian specimen reproduced over time, then it is alive, right? And the second part, I said CO2 release, second piece of evidence. And so reasoning for that would be that the carbon dioxide release indicates that the Martian specimen is actually respiring, it's doing respiration, therefore it's alive. Because it's doing respiration, it's alive. Okay, so that's it, guys. That's that's the test, and hopefully I'll tell you the rules about the makeup. It's not going to be full credit because obviously I'm providing you answers, and some of you again will not have to take it. All right, so and just to keep you honest, I am across periods. What I'm doing is I'll tell you a few things about my story, about my house, and I'll ask test different questions. So here you for fifth period, well, you have a question in fifth period. I guess everyone saw it, but I'll tell you about my house. I love my house. It's an interesting house. It was built in 1927. It's a Spanish bungalow. It's almost 100 years old. And it's mostly original. I have a huge giant backyard and I love it. And I have many types of trees and I grow vegetables. I have different types of animals that visit me, like raccoons and possums. And I leave a little food out for them, just cause. And water too, because that's important. I built a really cool mosaic fountain over the COVID shutdown. I'll send you guys pictures of it if you're interested. What else? So I'm telling you these things, so then I'll ask different questions over the different periods. I have probably a 50-plus-year-old avocado tree. I used to have a guava tree. I cut it down because it was too big. I have pomegranate, grapes, lemons, oranges, fig, papaya, really good papaya, and a few other things. So, apricot. All right, so that's my story. I'm going to be asking different periods, different things. All right, so please answer if you're taking the makeup test, and that'll be it. All right, hopefully you guys take advantage of this and improve your scores and your grade in the class.